Well, I'll spin it right back on Jim. Thanks, brother. Seriously. And Jim was my hero in college, believe it or not. He was one of the guys that I really looked up to. He was my captain. He was a guy that he always did everything first. He was always the cool guy that got everything done before we did. So he placed at nationals before I did. He got married before I did. He had his kid before I did. I've been chasing him ever since, you know. So I finally got one on him. I get to speak here tonight. But somebody mentioned, why are you guys here? Well, some of you folks are wondering why I'm here. No, seriously, some of you guys are like, seriously, why is this guy here? I thought Tony was going to be Tony Bennett. I thought Tony Bennett. Sorry, my hair isn't as sweet as Tony. My bank account's not as fat, but hopefully I can share something sweet with you today. Why I'm here? Very simply, it's kind of hard. Well, I'll say this. 3 things I want to hit on. I want to thank you, I want to encourage you, and I want to challenge you. And it's kind of hard to do that in 10 minutes, so bear with me. But the first piece of it, thank you. I think it's the most important piece of tonight. You're probably wondering, we don't even know you, man. Why would you be thanking us? Well, like Jim said, my life was dramatically impacted by this institution, and philanthropic giving completely transformed my life. So what you guys do changed my life. Maybe it wasn't you specifically, but somebody like you and what the work you were doing changed my life. Quickly, I won't bore you with the gory details of my upbringing, but kind of a crazy upbringing. I had a single mom, 3 kids, and her jobs were, she was a secretary at City Hall in Middletown, New York. Anybody's from Section 9? Anybody in the house? She sold hats at night at the mall, and then she worked as a waitress on the weekends. All that combined, she was still under $30,000 combined income. So, believe it or not, that actually helped me. Who knew? Need-based aid? Who's in the house need-based aid? Access UVA! Woo! There it is. It's awesome. I mean, I still took out the loans, did the summer job, did the work study, did the whole bit, but without need-based aid my first 3 years here, I would have never, ever been able to afford this place. And then my 4th year here, I was ranked in the top 10 nationally. I was competing for a national championship, and so I got scholarship money, athletic grant and aid. It was awesome. I didn't have to take out a loan. I mean, I had rent money. I got to eat. It was incredible. And in all seriousness, that year was the year I got my degree, and I was the first person in my family to ever graduate college. And my mom got to come down here. Thank you. And what I tell folks, I love sharing this with people. Virginia taught me a lot of things, but it taught me how to compete. It taught me how to build relationships. I was a pretty ignorant guy when I got to Virginia. And I had never been, I always joke with recruits when I'm recruiting them. I say, look, I've never been south. When I was your age, I had never been further south than the Jersey Shore. So this was like Mars when I showed up. And at first it really took me a while to get adjusted, but when I sort of chopped off the chips off my shoulder and actually embraced this community, it was unbelievable. And so I want to thank you guys for the work you're doing. I want to thank you for that. And I want to, and I just want to say thank you again, because it's truly amazing what you guys are doing. And you may not always see the fruit of that labor, but you're looking at them right here. And so I wanted to make sure I hit on that. Encouragement, I wanted to encourage you guys, and I want to specifically encourage a very, maybe smaller group of people in this room. Raise your hand if you're a part of what we consider, at least in my world, support staff. If you're an administrative assistant, support staff. Not the, I like to call it in my world, not the Hollywood guys. So not John Oliver, but Sharon McCauley, my administrative assistant, who I can't live without. And I mean that sincerely. I wanted to recognize you guys because, Jim, you mentioned the 2 ACC championship teams. We won 2 ACC titles since I've been here, and if I looked at those teams, and I was thinking about this driving in, it was the unsung heroes of that group that made it special, and it was them that I can pinpoint absolutely the reason why we won those titles. It wasn't the guy on the highest scholarship. It wasn't the sexy guy that was ranked #1 in the country. It wasn't all these guys that are in the newspaper. When we won the ACCs in 2010, it was a recruited walk-on from Grove City, Pennsylvania. It was the 3rd string guy, Bo Fisher, remember him? 2 guys go down, he pops in, and he ends up winning 2 matches. We end up winning the ACC title. Well, there's a lot of unsung heroes in this room that don't get recognized. And I want to encourage you that you're valuable, that you're making an impact, and that you matter. Obviously, you matter. And I want to say that sincerely. I heard the best speech I've ever heard in my life was from a war veteran. He was in Afghanistan. He was a military leader that was leading this group, and a bomb went off, and he lost his legs in the war. And I got to go hear him speak right here on ground. So when he shows up, they put him on the stage. He's literally got no legs below his kneecaps, and he gets up. They sit him in the chair, and he looks at everybody in the crowd. This was his opening line. I had a bad day at the office. And he just kept talking. I was immediately locked in. And the number one theme of his speech, he said, when I was leading men successfully going on missions and executing what we had to execute, the lowest ranking member of the unit knew that they were valued. They knew that they were valued. It wasn't that they were valued, they knew that they were valued. And that raised up the level of everybody else. And so I also want to challenge, my first part of my challenge, I've got two today, challenge the bigwigs in the room, the Jim Marshalls in the room. Okay? I want to challenge you guys. I'm serious. You guys with the sweet titles and all that, I want to challenge you. Tell these people how great they are. Tell them. Tell them what they mean in your organization. I mean, tell them. Physically lean over and tell them you're awesome. And I appreciate you. How far does that go in this world? Anybody? I'm into it. Yeah. The second part of the challenge, and I'll begin to start closing here. I want to challenge everybody in this room to consider their why and to know their why, to own their why. Here's what I mean by that. I want to sort of qualify this, explain it. You guys are in the business of why. Why this endowment? Why this gift? Why this program? Why now? Why this campaign? You guys do it all the time. So I'm not talking about that why, I'm talking about your why. Your personal why for doing what you do. Why do you do it? And I mean dig into that and remind yourself daily. I have it written down. I'm going to read off our mission statement for our program that's attached to every email I either send out or receive. It says, everyone within the Virginia wrestling family should know their why. Everything we do will be fueled by a clear understanding of our purpose. We will passionately pursue our goals, fully believing in ourselves and in our teammates. We will never fixate on outcomes, but instead will focus and enjoy the process. I say that because you guys are facing some pretty what would seem insurmountable odds in doing what you're doing. I don't know what the campaign number is. I'm not that sharp. I probably wouldn't get it, even if you told me. But I'll take a gander here. I'll take a guess and say it's a lot of money you guys got. And it's in those moments, in those battles, you guys got to ask, you got to have your why. You got to know it. You got to own it. I'll give you guys a silly example just from my own life. I got to drive my guys, my young kids, up to it's just a tournament, a freestyle off-season tournament in Akron. We had a ball. I mean, we're at Dairy Queen after the tournament, so nobody even plays. We don't care. We're at Dairy Queen. I mean, it was just fun. There's no pressure. Everybody's learning. It's a process. It was great. Music blaring. We got Pandora going on the way home. Couldn't have been any better. I don't have to question my why in those days. It's pretty easy to understand the why, but here's where it gets rough. A year earlier, I come home after we just lost our 5th dual meet in a row, and I got to see my wife laying on the couch crying her eyes out saying, Steve, what are they going to do to you? Are you going to have a job next year? It's in those moments you got to have your why pretty solid, right? It's the moments when your daughter there's times where last year I got to be a chaplain for the junior world team in Brazil. I got to work and share the gospel with some of the most elite athletes on the planet. It was amazing. I was gone for 16 days. And I went to lunch with my daughter when I got back, and she told her friends, "Oh, my daddy's always gone." 7 years old. That's when you got to have your why rock solid. And so whatever you guys are facing, what you will be facing, make sure you have it. Write it down, memorize it, and remind yourself constantly of it. So to hopefully tie this whole thing together and give you a living, breathing example of the why I do what I do and really what you guys do, I'll just share a quick story and I'll close with that. One of the most amazing kids I ever coached was a guy by the name of John Fauci. He's from Dalmatian, Pennsylvania. You guys wouldn't know him, but he is the most amazing kid I've ever worked with. As a matter of fact, I have a note that he wrote me when he graduated med school that I keep in my binder when I do home visits. I'm still old school. I still write handwritten notes, and I've got like these cheesy printouts that I print out. I'm like, we're great, UVA #1. Everyone's like laptops and stuff. I just go with that. But, so I still use that before I go into a house sometimes when I need my why, right, I'll pull that out and I'll use it to motivate myself to get in it. Sometimes it's hard on the road. And I think about this guy often. I want to share his story quickly with you. When I went and home visited him in Pennsylvania, I'm not kidding you, I'm not making this up, he lived on top of a gas station. His mom had no part in his life. He was living with his dad. His dad drove a truck for a living, was never around because he was too busy working to put food on the table. There was, on top of a gas station, there was a little flat. They had 2 rooms, a nasty kitchen, no carpet, concrete. You walk in, and I went into his bedroom, and him and his brother were rolled up in the bed burrito. You guys have heard of this? Where there was no sheets on the mattresses. They were on the floor, and they were rolled up in blankets together. That's how this kid was sleeping. And I'm like, we're getting this guy. We're making sure this kid gets to Virginia. We end up getting him. He turns down Penn, he turned down Harvard, he turned down Cornell. We get him at the University of Virginia. This guy was rocked by this community. Comes to faith, meets his wife, gets 2 degrees, an undergraduate and a master's degree, then goes off to Yale and graduates from Yale Physician's Assistant School. This guy, so here's the point. I come here because of the work you guys are doing. I get impacted. I bring him in. He gets impacted. He's now out in the world in Connecticut at a practice impacting everybody. I mean, this guy, everyone that comes in contact with this guy can promise you he's amazing. That's what it's about, right? That's what we're supposed to be doing. So I want to. That's the challenge. Is, you know, it's kind of all these things. It's the thank you. It's the encouragement and the challenge all wrapped up into one cocktail here. It really is. It's like when you got. I wanted to share that with you because I feel like there's a million Johns out there. There's a million Janes out there. There's a lot of people with that same story that are benefiting from what you guys are doing. So thank you, encourage you, and challenge you. Thank you guys for having me.
It's not too often that Steve almost bumps his head on a light. I can say that. I can say that to him. So our next speaker, just for the last few minutes here, needs no introduction, Vice President for Advancement, Mark Llewellyn. And I just want to say a quick word about Mark. He, when this committee was formed, Mark sort of, kept arm's length, but kind of kept an eye on what we were doing, and we would kind of touch base with him and say, we have this idea, we have that idea. He gave us such amazing autonomy to really do what we wanted, and such a great leader. And I just want to say a quick thank you to Mark for really letting us put this thing together the way that we saw fit. So thank you, Mark. And come on up to the microphone.
Thanks, Jim, and thanks, Steve, for your great remarks. I really do appreciate it, and probably more importantly, I do appreciate that both Jim and Steve didn't wear their wrestling singlets here today. That calls for a very awkward moment. So, no, I'll be very brief. There's a lot to be thankful for here, but what I want to really spend the time talking about is how this all came together. And as all of you know, last year I was going through the interview process to be VP, and I was being grilled a lot on the questions on how do we want to grow this organization. And not just in the size of staff, but what type of numbers do we need to be? 315 million, 350 million, 400 million, 500 million. How do we get there? What kind of staffing are we going to need? What's the return on investment? So we were spending a lot of time talking about those things. And I'll share a bit that I probably haven't shared with most of you before, but there was a question at the end. We were just wrapping up my last presentation, and I said, the thing we have to focus the most on is strengthening our community. And we have a great community here at the University of Virginia, people who love this place tremendously, but as we're going into these type of numbers and this kind of work that we have to do, it's going to have to be a time for all of us to work together and not just check the collaboration box, but how do we actually have fun doing it, spend a lot of time with each other. We probably spend more time with each other than we do our families, so we should have fun and figure out ways to thank each other. So this all came out of that. I guess it was probably September, was that about right? I decided that I wanted to create this program. I didn't know what it would be like. I didn't know how it would be set up. All I knew was I was going to have to write a check. But beyond that, I wanted other people to set it up. And I wanted to have it chaired by someone from the foundations and also someone from University Advancement staff, so the entire community. So I decided on Heidi and Lo, and Heidi and Lo, I just want to congratulate you. You guys have done a fabulous job. As Jim said, in the spirit of self-governance, I pretty much said, we have multiple microphones. In the spirit of self-governance, I said, you guys run with this. Just come back to me in December, give me a plan, give me a budget, but I want it to be fun, I want it to include the entire community, and I want it to break the mold from what we've done previously. So I think what you'll see in the weeks and months to come, even with this event here today, the type of entertainment and fun they're looking to have, but also ways for peers to be recognizing each other for the work that they do. No matter if you work in a foundation or whether you work for the university, no matter if you're support staff or a fundraiser, whatever you may be, what's the way we can thank each other as we go forward. So I didn't pick the committee, everyone picked themselves, and I just want to say thank you to everyone who was involved. Thank you for being here, and here's to the end of the fiscal year. So thank you.
Do we have any other announcements from the committee? Okay, so we have 26 raffle prizes. So by being here, you're in the raffle. And so we have one sort of grand prize. We're going to do that drawing right now. Okay, so the first grand prize, and I want to say again, thank you to the graduate for hosting us. And the staff has been fantastic. They were really helpful in making sure this whole thing went off without a hitch, and it's been fantastic. So we have a one-night stay here at the Graduate. It is our first prize. And you have to be present. You snuck out early, you don't get it. Okay, Doran Tremblay. Okay, so here's what we're going to do. We're going to call out.
Hello, everyone. We've got everyone's name is here in the bag, so I'm just going to call out all 26. The door prizes are located outside, so we're sort of having a free-for-all. So the first name I draw, Greenwood. Here. Hey, go Bill. You can pick whatever prize you want, be it baseball tickets or there's a lovely